Hi, my name is Ann Napolitano, and I'm the author of the novel Dear Edward. And Dear Edward is about a 12-year-old boy named Edward who is the sole survivor of a plane crash. And there's two timelines that we follow in the book. The first chapter is Edward and his family boarding the flight in Newark, New Jersey, and the flight's bound for Los Angeles, and his family is moving there, so it's a big day for them. And then the second chapter is later that day when the flight has already crashed. And so the two timelines alternate for the rest of the book. We see how Edward is able to go on with a new life after losing his family and everyone else on that plane. And then we also follow the trajectory of the flight from the beginning to the end. And I'm a nervous flyer, and I never thought I would write a book about a plane crash, so it's not really about a plane crash, and I hope that you enjoy it. So I'm in Waterstones, Piccadilly, and I'm going to tell you about three books that I really, really love. And the first of which is Cloud Atlas by David Mitchell. It's a beast of a book, as you can see, but it's like a joy. It's like one of those long books that you are so happy to spend so much time with. And it's incredibly hard to describe because it's structurally astounding. It has 6 interconnected stories, ranging from the 1800s to a post-apocalyptic future. And these storylines sort of nest inside each other like a Russian doll. And so it's conceptually and structurally astounding, but at the same time, it's also exhilarating to read. And there's funny, amazing characters that you'll love. I'm not interested in books or stories that are conceptual in nature, but this is so much more than that. It is a complete joy, and I hope that you will read it. The second book that I'm choosing is another book that just blew me away. This is Homegoing by Yaa Gyasi. I hope I'm saying that right. And it was a debut novel, and it is unbelievable that it's debut because it is so expertly constructed and written. It's just beautiful. It starts in Ghana in the 18th century, and it's about 2 half-sisters who grew up in different towns in Ghana, and they never knew each other. And one of them is captured and sold into slavery and brought to America, and the other one marries an Englishman and stays in Ghana. And the book tells the story about these 2 sisters and their descendants going through 8 generations. And this is where it blows my mind, because what that means is that she's going from telling one character's story completely deeply, so you're immersed, to going to telling another story that's 25 years later, and then telling another story. And usually that's impossible because you really care about one timeline but not another, but she completely pulls it off. And so you get to see the entire history of this family going to the present day, and you see how their DNA is affected by what happened to these 2 sisters in the beginning. And it's just an extraordinary book. The third book that I'm going to recommend is one of my favorites. It is Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. And I actually avoided this book for a long time because I knew it was about a post-apocalyptic future. And I feel like my overactive imagination already propels me into like worst case scenarios all the time, so I try to avoid them fictionally. But enough people recommended it that I finally read it, and I'm so happy I did because it's one of my favorite books ever. And what happens is that most of the world has died from a horrible virus called the Georgian flu. And in the beginning of the book, we see a production of King Lear, and there's an 8-year-old girl who's in it, and we sort of see people starting to get sick. And then we go 20 years into the future, and that little girl is now a young woman named Kirsten. And she is part of a traveling Shakespearean theater company. And even though there's no electricity and no way of communicating across the world and limited water, they're still bringing art and beauty and kindness into the future. And Mandel is so brave in her imagining of this sort of beautiful landscape beyond our worst nightmares. And her writing is just extraordinary. I can't recommend it enough.